Now I want to introduce Chrystofer Davis to you. I'm very excited that he is here. I will just tell you a little bit about him, and then I will tell you why I invited him, and then I will hand this whole thing over to him. So Chrystofer Davis is a Bajan American photographer and filmmaker, and he is originally from Newark, New Jersey, where he actually also still lives. He focuses mainly on street photography, street portraits. He photographs street artists, also protests. At the moment, over the last few weeks, has been photographing a lot of protests. And he's interested in documenting contemporary culture. He has collaborated and worked for a variety of companies, including Michelle Obama, Vogue Italia, Puma, Rutgers University, MTV, and many others. He also teaches photography workshops. And one thing that he concentrates on is analog photography, because he wants to keep film and developing alive, which I think is great. So that's something that he does in Newark. He has been in high demand over the past few weeks. He has just recently given a talk for Leica Photography, and on Monday or Tuesday, I don't even remember what it was, for B&H. And so I'm very happy that he has time for us. And I think, if I'm correct, this weekend there will be an article coming out about you and a group of photographers in the New York Times. So I'm not sure if that's correct, but we can talk about that later. So Chrystofer and we met when he was giving yet another talk in Bushwick, and he was talking about documenting his surroundings, documenting his community in Newark. And I found it really fascinating how passionate he is about doing that, and how important it is for him to build community through photography. And that was why I wanted to invite him. Some of you know I teach a class that is called Explore Your Surroundings, where you know I try to inspire the students to really look at their surroundings in a new way and connect with people and find new ways of storytelling and find new ways of documenting their immediate surroundings. So that's what Chrystofer will talk about. He will also give a little bit of history on how he got into photography and all that. Chrystofer, I'm going to hand it over to you. And as I mentioned already, since you know, I would love for the audience, if you want to say something, please just unmute yourself. You can unmute yourself and start speaking, or put something into the chat. So Chrystofer, you can share your screen whenever you like.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Like I said, it's an honor to be here, and and really speak about my experience with documenting Newark. Just to give you just like a brief history of how I got into photography. Now, it's actually two stories. Most importantly, it was through my family and us going on vacations frequently. And it was just this one moment where, we were on a vacation in the Bahamas. And, I was maybe about 8 or 9 years old. I had a disposable camera that my mom gave me because, I was constantly asking, like, oh, can I take a picture? Can I take a picture? And we were on a boat in the Bahamas, going from, if you're familiar with the Bahamas, you know about Paradise Island and then New Providence. So we were taking like a water taxi there, and I was going around on the boat taking photos, just as a kid, just like, all right, I just want to get the water, I want to get the island. But it was just this one specific moment that stuck with me, and I, always reflect back to it to this day. There was a rooftop on the actual water taxi, and there was a stairway leading upstairs. And, not as a kid, not knowing about composition or, positioning yourself where to photograph, instantly I seen the sun. It was like directly in the middle to where the stairway was. So I actually knelt down and composed it, in an even kind of way to capture that moment. And from there on, I had some knowledge about photography and that I wanted to get into it. But years later, I was just more so into drawing and painting. And it wasn't until my senior year of high school where I had a free period with my social studies teacher. And he was actually a photographer and a filmmaker as well. But, then I wasn't really focusing too much on it. I was just more so wanted to be a school leader. And we had a free period. There was nothing to do. And he kindly asked me to come over and say, hey, I want you to go out and photograph, the students you here. I want you to, just document the faculty, the student life that's here. And he kindly handed me his Canon 5D. And then from there, I want to be a photographer.
Well, the Canon 5D, that's a nice camera to have in your hand.
Definitely a nice camera, and I didn't know too much about it. I just had it on like on a program, and I just went around the shop. But just that, feeling of just holding onto the shutter button, it was very like liberating, and I just want to keep on doing that. All right, but I want to get more so into the to this presentation and just talk a little bit more about just my journey, just becoming a documentary and street photographer. So I created this presentation in the form of a timeline to kind of get you to really know me and to get inside my head and seeing how exactly I got to this actual point. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. All right, so I know that Anja, she was very kind enough to give my my bio, my introduction. So yes, I am a filmmaker, fine art photographer, and a teaching artist here living in New Jersey. Now, when it came down to documenting, I even like up to this point now, I would frequently look for just older pictures of Newark. And for me, knowing, like the history of, different documentary photographers, whether if you have like a Gordon Parks or a Henry Cartier-Bresson, I could never find just older pictures of Newark and, people who were just living, through a specific time, not of my actual timeline, but just of a different time period. And so it wasn't until recently where I actually ran into a photographer. His name was John Mattery. And I met him last year, and just to see his work, he actually documented Newark from 1969 to 1974. And just from actually, taking a look at his actual work, I'm actually going to get into that. This is Finding Little Newark. Just to see somebody who's a native from Newark and who, is a photographer and a documentary photographer was very just like, it was a shock to me, and it was just very exciting for me because now I get to see, my city and my community from a different time period. So except from left to right, you're going to see images from 1969. This is the Feast of Saint Gerard. So, just seeing, how people just worshipped back then, and just to see, just the hand gestures, the clothing, and it just put me into just a different perspective of how people lived. And during this time, some people may know or not know that there was the Newark Rebellion of 1968. And, definitely that was a very tragic moment in, the city's history. And we're actually still recovering from that till this day. And just to see, the documentation, post-rebellion, it gave me some kind of sense of, what life was like, afterwards. Just seeing, just citizens living their everyday life on the street, to him to actually going, if you see it in the right image, to going into, like I said, an apartment complex and, just really interacting, with the community that's there. And he told me that just around that time when he went to the Columbus Homes, that, he was actually in college, he was on a work study, and, he just always had this camera. and he just went out and documented just the people that were there. He went inside of their apartments, spoke to them, and and he's cleaning up as well. But just getting that chance to interact with people, and I feel that this series right here, it just amplifies me more as a photographer because during that time period from 1969 to 74, afterwards he didn't really document Newark. He was majority of the time he was in New York. And I know that he's done a lot of like exhibitions in New York, a lot of residencies. So he didn't really get a chance to come back. And
you mentioned to me that he regretted that he stopped doing this, right?
Yeah,
Is
he told me
that something he told you, or did you read about this?
No, that's something that he told me directly. Like I actually got a chance to see his work in a gallery. There's a gallery called Gallery Aquaba and Index Art Gallery.
And did he stop because he moved away, or why did he stop?
Well, it was just that it was his time period, and he didn't think nothing of it. That he was just living in it. That this was just something that I see every day. And so up until now, he looks back and says, you know what, I wish I would have documented more. He didn't know the importance of it until he got older.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Everything was long gone. So and I just feel like from that, it not saying that it kind of scared me a bit, because now that I'm documenting now, I wish I would have documented when I started photography, or that I had a way of archiving it. And so just from meeting him and hearing about his experience makes me want to make sure that I get out and get everything that I can during this time period, because we are living, every day is important. Every day we're living through history. Okay, so now fast forward up to me. Now I've been photographing for about 11 years. Now during that time, I really wasn't into street or documentary photography. I was more so into fashion, editorials. So I was doing different photography for like streetwear brands or just other clothing lines. Akuji, they make sweaters, like high-end sweaters. I'm doing music videos now, and I had the chance to showcase some of my work on MTV, and that's kind of the realm where I was at. But I knew that going to important events and photographing it, I knew that was important, but I didn't know the real, like the biggest importance to it. And I just want to move on to the next slide, which is Michelle Obama, and this is around 2016. Now, just going out there and just documenting, I was actually contacted by my college, Bloomfield College. They said that Michelle Obama, she was coming to Newark, and she's going to speak to the students, because around then she had a campaign to where she wanted to speak to the younger students about eating healthy and growing your own fruits and vegetables. And I knew that this moment was important, and that this is the first African American first lady, and that she was here in Newark. And I was working a job at the airport, and I just told myself that this is a once in a lifetime moment. I have to go out there and I have to capture this. And fast forward today, I'm looking back at that and I'm just like, wow, like I'm so happy that I did that, because this only happens but so often, or this never had happened ever in the history of America. This is like American history, not only just for Newark but America. And just that experience of just photographing her, I was in a press pool with other press photographers, and in other news corporations. And just her just walking into the room, it's almost like she kind of sucked the air out. Like, so you really couldn't say anything. You just have to just sit there and watch. And, to me, I was just like, wow, like this is Michelle Obama that I'm photographing. Like this is huge. Right. And I feel like this is definitely an important time period in my career. Because like I said, I wasn't thinking too much of just documenting. I just wanted to go out and shoot. And that was pretty much it. So along the lines 2016, I really wasn't doing too much documentary photography.
Was it the first time for you to be like standing next to all those other photographers, the office
Yes,
press.
that was my first time, like actually, working around the press photographers. Now, forward over to the next year, uh, I just titled this particular one like "Finding Myself and Finding My Vision," and it was through street photography and analog photography. Now, I've had my experiences with film as a kid, just having the disposable cameras, and being around the time that I am doing digital photography, I'm doing different campaigns for different companies. It's not that I didn't enjoy the work that I was doing, but I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to amplify my skill set. And around 2015, I did attempt to try to shoot film, but I failed miserably. I'm out with it was a lomography camera, it was a fisheye. I'm on vacation. I'm in Barbados, seeing family, and I'm going around. I'm taking all these photographs, and I go back to the lab, CVS. They had the 1 hour developing, and you can just come back and get it. And then as soon as I came back to get my my film, he said there's nothing on there.
Oh my God, that was
yeah, and that really put a real dent, in my soul, because I was like, wow, like this is film. Like, why? Like I'm a great photographer. Why am I not, getting this? So
did those images get burnt into your brain? I mean, that's what happened to me when I made this mistake for the first time. And now I don't remember them, but I remember them for years because I didn't actually have them. So they really stayed in there.
Yeah. So like it was consistently on my mind. And at that time when I failed, I was like, you know what? I don't need film. I'm just going to shoot digital. I don't have to worry about it. I could just snap away. But, come, 2017, I just looking back at that failure, I wanted to, overcome it, and just overcome that stress in my mind that, hey, like you can do it. And so during this time, I'm finding myself, I'm finding, what exactly do I want to photograph? I want to go outside because, when I had my digital camera, I was just only focusing on the campaign work and the fashion work. I wasn't getting out and I wasn't, continuing to practice my craft. So I went along and tried and attempted to go out, on the streets and shoot and try, shooting with film. Now, with some of these other, so this is around 2017 where I'm photographing, my surroundings. Now, I would say going from doing, fashion and portraits to doing street. Now, I was very shy within my work. I didn't want to, connect with anybody. I kind of stayed my distance. I took a lot of pictures of the backs of people because I didn't want them to see that, I was actually photographing them. And, I was just, just looking around in my surroundings, just consistently practicing. And, these are just some of the images that I have here. I'm going to continue to show a few. But, definitely I want to get the things that stuck out to me, that, that there's this homeless man, he's away from his chair. He's like all the way, away from it. And he's actually just like playing in the dirt. And, I kind of found that just intriguing that, he's just, he's just there and then he's just, just having the time of his life. And he's just there, in his own presence. And then going over to see that, there's this old barbershop and beauty salon that, is locked up. And, I've always seen it open, people frequently hanging out and going outside, to actually just seeing it, chained up and closed, and that kind of really stuck out to me. So just throughout this time, I was just finding my eye, finding myself, and just like what really spoke to me. And also just just taking random rides around and just clearing my thoughts, thinking, and just capturing. And, I'm over here just capturing just some of the memorials, some people who may have passed, just standing on the corner because, Newark has, a history of like gun violence and just other things of that nature. And I think later on within my work, I didn't really want to amplify those stories because through the media, they often amplify them way too much than the positive stories. And just looking back at some of these photos from 2017, that I wanted to, tell more of the positive stories. But this comes a little bit later on. But I just want to just photograph my surroundings and just get out and just be proactive with my actual craft and get better. And not only am I, photographing my surroundings, I'm actually photographing some of my friends that I bump into in the street. And they're eager to, have photographs taken. They know that, I'm a photographer. I do it for fun. And not only as a profession, but as a hobby as well. And then, like I said, I'm over here. Like I said, I want to capture just more of Newark and just photographs, just to have fun. And I'm also getting into the Polaroids as well.
What is the building on the left?
So this is the Newark Paramount building. It was actually a movie theater. It's currently closed to the public. I know that I can recall back in like 2010, maybe '08, that they frequently changed the space. So at one point it was an arcade, and then later on it just became like a storefront in some kind of way. Like there was like steps, like not steps, but like a hill leading up to maybe where the entrance would be for the actual theater, but that was actually just closed off. And so whoever's like running this particular building, they're not letting anybody come into the actual space where the movie theater is.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now, after I go through my phase of learning a little bit more about my eye, and finding myself within in my photographic vision for street photography. Now I'm starting to find the importance of documenting this particular time period. And I just had like a few, like just these three things that stuck out to me the most. And that was finding the importance of documenting, having the courage to speak to others, understanding that things change over time, and highlighting and collaborating with the community. And I also just want to share this particular photo because if it wasn't for this particular photo that I captured, I probably still wouldn't have that courage to actually, go up to people and talk to them. This one was a particular, different kind of experience. I know that some people, when, if they see this man, they would be intimidated. They wouldn't go up and have a conversation with him. And so, what? I had my film camera, and I was like, what's the worst that can happen? The guy can say no, or something else can happen. But what? I just figured that, I would approach him genuinely, and, and just try to, engage with him. And so, like, the first thing that I did, I walked up to him, I said, hey, my name is Chrystofer. I was just wanting to know if I could just capture your picture. I like the tattoos on your face. And the first thing that he asked me is that, are you the police?
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was the first thing that he did. But I mean, I'm not sure about his background or his run-ins with the police. But I kind of had to tell him, like, no, I'm not an officer. I'm just out photographing. I just want to document people that's living here in the city, because things change over time. 10, 15, 20 years from now, like I said, this whole place can look different, and I just want to capture it for what it is right now. And then, and I also tell him that, like I actually photographed with Puma. So I'm actually bringing up some of my history with photography and what I'm doing now. And, he actually let his guard down, and, he was eager to, have his photograph taken. But I feel like if you see, somebody who you want to capture, who you think, is important to you, that the best thing to do with them is to connect with them. And then, as I'm going along doing my documentation, I figure that, what are some of the things that I want to highlight about Newark, or some of the things that I want to show that nobody else has seen about Newark. And so I'm going over, to different merchants, I'm photographing their stands. I'm also photographing some of the people, who are here. And, then, like I said, I am testing out my courage and going out and just documenting people just like candidly, because, I just want to capture them in that particular moment that, they're just living their everyday lives here in the city. And I think that's important. And that goes back to John Matthews' work, that, he documented his time period where everybody, you had that mother and her child just looking at the window at the department store, just living their everyday lives. And that's something I want to incorporate, because, we have, a ton of photos of, New York documented, or, LA, documented. So I felt that, Newark had, has its importance, and it deserves its right to be documented every day. And so, like I said, and the gentleman to the right, even though like I went ahead and I took his photo, he kind of actually smirked, and he gave like a thumbs up. that, and showing that, he's in support, of it. So, and I think that, well, actually through my work right now, when I take candid photos of others, I know that sometimes, they may question, like, what exactly are you doing? Why are you taking my picture? But, it's just more so just to highlight them and to honor them and to showcase who they are. And, the fact that, more people, like say, if you explain to them what you're doing and your true motives, that they're fine with, you documenting them. And even so, like I said, I'm documenting different things that are happening around in Newark. Some of the things that, you may not see. And to the left, of course, I feel like for me, when I was documenting that, I wanted to capture just everything, the good and the bad, because like I said, every city has it, and all these things need to be remembered for this particular time period. And to the left, I actually have a 10-year-old son, and this is what was around when he was in third grade. That I just finished dropping him off to school, but as I'm continuing to go along back home, I see that that there's this car that's flipped over, and I was just like, wow, like that's something that you really don't see every day. So, and
which is good.
Yeah, which is good. So I was like, you know what, I want to go ahead and document that particular time period, because we all have tragic events that may happen within our neighborhoods, and like I said, even though they may be bad, they also have their own right to be documented. And then to the right, I wanted to show a little bit more positive images that there are people who are in Newark who are friendly and who want to actually help one another. Because there was an article, I want to say probably around this particular time, maybe 2017, where the city of Newark was rated the most unfriendly city in the U.S. And
when was that?
I think that was around 2017, maybe 2018, where they said that Newark was just the most unfriendly place. Like if you walk up to anybody, like they're gonna just give you the mean face, the stink face. But that I definitely felt offended, because I'm thinking to myself, like, no, Newark it's friendly people here. We treat each other like family. We're gonna look out for each other. And so through that documentation, I feel like just from hearing those negative parts made me want to photograph some of the more positive things that are happening in the city. But everything's happening simultaneously. So I am capturing the good, but if there's any bad, that I may have to capture that as well to document that particular time period. And also, except with the positivity, I wanted to show that Newark has its innocence. I wanted to document just everyday people and just the positivity that's among them. Even like with the actual photographs to the left, I thought that this was powerful. Just even seeing it, not even photographing it, but seeing it. That this father figure and a son-like figure. That they're actually look alike. They both have on the same fedora, and that the fact that he's holding him, and uplifting him, that showed strength. And this was totally candid. I didn't ask the kid to do this. And if I think maybe later on, I may post it in my story on Instagram, but I'll show like the first shot of this. Like he didn't even have his hand up. He was more so just like laid over like a sack of potatoes, which was funny. But just waiting for that particular moment, just to see if something would happen, and just capturing that, it was very fulfilling. And this is one of my favorite images. Like if I ever wanted to be remembered, I want to be remembered for this particular picture.
It's beautiful. And what I also find so fascinating about your photos, your black and white images, is how timeless they seem. I mean, that's what black and white does, but I feel like here it's so strong. I feel this could really be, from whatever, I don't know, the 70s or something like that. And that's really, it's beautiful.
Right. And film definitely in 2017 went through its renaissance, where you see a lot more photographers. They're gearing towards film. They're going out, they're buying a film camera from maybe a thrift shop, or maybe a major photography store like B&H. And they're getting back to these things where that things that are timeless, things that are nostalgic, and things that are tangible, that they can actually feel. And for me, I love the black and white. And just through analyzing my actual work during around this time period, I felt that, just having black and white, you can actually pay attention to the subject and not, let's say if you had a color, let's say if I would have had this same, image, but then you see like a yellow sports car or pink sports car, around the way, your eye is probably going to draw more attention to that car rather than what I'm actually showing you. And that's why I gravitated to black and white more, because I want you to focus in on what's there and what I'm trying to tell you. Like even with the child to the right, just seeing the innocence in his face and that, he was with his grandmother. Mm-hmm. And like I said, this was candid as well. Like I said, I just want to capture the organicness, of the city. Mm. Right. And so like I said, and as I'm continuing on, I'm capturing some of the merchants. To the left, this is definitely Newark has a very high Muslim population, and they go around downtown Newark. They sell oils and incense and different garments of Muslim culture, and I definitely felt as though that this was important because you frequently see them on the street, especially with the street merchants. And then I'm capturing some of my other friends that I know and just documenting them and just letting them know that this is an important time period. Like let me capture you for historic purposes. And they're just more eager to get their photograph taken. And also with these particular images here, as I said before, I wanted to show more of the positive things, more of the uplifting things that are about Newark, and just to show a little bit more strength and dignity that people here, they're not what the media says that they are, that they're human beings, and that they have emotions, that they have strength, that they have a good character to them. And to the left, this is definitely one of my favorite images. This was actually near a diner that I frequently patron, and he's like one of the workers, and he just on a smoke break. But I just noticed that to see his hat, it said "Make America Grateful Again," and I was just like, wow, like let me go ahead and let me ask him if I can capture his portrait. And then he actually had the hat on his head. And then when I asked him, I was like, hey, it's okay if I can take a picture of you in your hat? And he calmly just takes it off, puts it on his side and crosses his legs with a cigarette in his hand. He's on his lunch break, and he just poses for me. And
beautiful.
I don't know. I feel like just photographing a lot of the older generation, like it says something, that we have elders here that we need to highlight, that have been here in Newark, that they're living their everyday lives, and that they shouldn't be forgotten. And then to the right, he actually runs one of the like a stand in Newark, and I've always like walked past him, and and he actually had on the Pan-African colors, and he had the Africa chain, and you just see a lot of where he is, like where he's he's embracing the culture, his culture, and our culture. And I just wanted to just highlight that as well, because I just felt that it was just important, and just to show that strength, and just in his manhood, that he just wanted to show pride in his culture, and I just felt that that had to be documented. This is definitely one of my favorite images as well.
Say, Chrystofer, I was just wondering, are you only shooting film when you're doing your documentary work, or you mix it between digital and film? And if you're, I was also curious, like how you shoot differently if you're shooting film in like a documentary situation than the way you would approach it with digital.
Well, definitely with a lot of my documentary work, it is on film. But ever so recently, I have been switching in between both film and digital. Like I said, they both hold their place in in the actual work that I do, because sometimes I may need something that could be a bit quicker, that I may need instantly, but it goes back to what is the best way to archive your images. No. Because when we do have these digital cameras and the SD cards, more so often they die a lot quicker than film cameras. So I've always had this tussle with myself back and forth of, you know, how actually can I preserve this? You know, with film, you know, it's tangible. You know, you can hold it in your hands. You can, you know, archive it. You can put it in a box in one specific place. As long as you take care of it, that nothing will happen to it. You know, more so often when we're using our electronic devices, any other given day, you know, it could possibly die. You know, you may drop your camera. You may, you know, have a corrupted SD card. And so I more so, like I said, I lean on film to do my documentary work and my archival work, because like I said, this particular work right here will outlive me, and that's the goal. The goal is for me to make sure that these images stay, you know, and live past this actual time period, so other people can look back on this and say, hey, you know, this is what Newark looked like back in, you know, 2017, 2020, you know, 2025.
Interesting. And do you find yourself taking different pictures between the two different formats? I mean, like, what you're deciding is your subject when you're actually shooting? Are you thinking about, oh, okay, I'm shooting film now, and you're seeing things in a different way with film? Or, I mean, like you mentioned the bit about, you know, if there's like a pink card, and, you know, maybe you'd frame the image a different way if you know you're shooting film, or I don't know.
So yeah, so it definitely goes into my process whenever I'm photographing. That with film, you only have but so many shots. You may have 24, you may have 36. Right. And so you definitely have to be picky with what you're going to capture.
And you don't see what you're actually capturing. That's the other important thing, right?
And I feel like the power of film is that you get to actually use your vision. So I can actually see an image before I even develop it, which is like the great thing, because you have to think, you have to slow down, you have to, you know, realize what exactly am I trying to you know, convey to an audience, or what am I trying to tell somebody, you know, through this particular image. And that's why, you know, with film, like I said, I slow down. You know, I analyze the environment, I analyze hand movements, I analyze gestures. And so definitely with film, I have a lot more benefits to that just with thinking, and I try to translate that over to my digital work. So sometimes, you know, I'll treat a digital camera as if it's film, and I'll wait a bit, and then I'll shoot. I won't, you know, have my hands all on the shutter button, you know, holding it down. The term spraying and praying, because then you have to analyze through all those images, and you only pick out one or two, when you could have just, you know, just did one and then two.
I hear you.
Slowing down. And then, you know, as I'm documenting, I'm actually, you know, collaborating with the community. As I stated before, I am a teaching artist at the Newark Print Shop, which is a nonprofit, and they're more so of the traditional kind of place where, you know, if you want to learn the art of silk screening or cyanotypes, you know, that this is the place to go, where you'll learn, you know, these hands-on kinds of skills. And I actually work the darkroom that's there, so I'm a darkroom technician. And, you know, seeing that, you know, I have a lot of people who support what I do and who are from my community. I was actually Malcolm X Shabazz High School in Newark, which is in the South Ward, or the South side of Newark, you know, reached out to me to be a part of a photographic project. And it was just to go into the high school and document the students. And they were actually doing the project to actually blow them up and just hang them up in the actual high school. And that was just to, you know, honor them and to let them know that, you know, hey, that you are beautiful, where you're from is beautiful, and that, you know, just to show that sense of pride as well, you know, at your high school. And definitely the image to the left, you know, it stuck out to me, because we were, you know, walking around the halls. Me and some of the staff members were trying to pick out students to photograph and kind of pose them. And, you know, as we're walking with this young lady, we're walking up the stairs, I look to my right, and then I see this empty chair. And then I see this quote by Babe Ruth that says, "Don't let the fear of striking out hold you back." And just seeing, just, you know, positioning her there and just having her look at the actual image, I just felt that it was powerful, that, you know what, you know, don't let, the fear of, maybe getting to your goals, just hold you back. Like, you should just always go forward. And that's something I want to convey. And this is, like I said, definitely one of my favorite images that I've taken. And then I had a young man who's here to the right. In this particular image, I've taken multiple pictures of this particular scene to where it's just him, just as a young Black man, just him next to a wall that says, "What's your dream?" It's like, because we all have dreams, and it's just like, we gotta keep thinking big. And I told him, I definitely want you to, move forward with, whatever you're thinking of, because anything that you're wanting to do in life is possible. And then here's some more of the other photographs from that particular series. Just being in left, we were in an auditorium. I liked how the light was shining down in the auditorium, and I just felt that just having him with his fist up, just showing that sense of pride. Definitely.
I love how you also included the space a little bit, so we can get a feeling of what the surroundings are like. I love seeing all these chairs.
Right, and this was with medium format, so I definitely had to take another step back and slow down and really just position him and just really just capture that particular scene, just him being in an auditorium in high school, him showing his pride, and just definitely capturing that light. I absolutely love the light that was coming down in the auditorium, and I thought that this could be effective. And then even to the right, we have two young women. They were in the gym. It was like a gym period, and everybody was playing basketball or dodgeball, and I just wanted to just capture them just for that particular moment. All right, so now, being that around this particular time period, like 2018 to 2019, I was getting into the documentation period of my career. Like I said, you already seen with the high schools, meeting the random citizens that are on the street and capturing them and documenting them. But I felt that this particular moment, which was the MTV Music Video Awards here in Newark, New Jersey, it really, I think from right there, I really found my calling as a documentary photographer and as a photojournalist as well. And just being around in this particular moment, I don't know, like it's one thing, to see that, another city goes through, a particular water crisis where people can't, they don't have access to clean water, that they have to consistently use bottled water, in Flint, Michigan, to now, my hometown, having a similar issue where we have lead in our water, and that, people have been affected, whether it was neurological or, or any other issues from drinking the water. And it just really hit home for me, because it's like, wow, like now we're in a similar situation as Flint. And definitely this particular moment, it was very interesting. Now, I do have like a series of photos here, if you look from like left to right or up and down. Just being in that moment, just with the people and just hearing them, shout and scream and cry. Like I said, it really hit home for me. I felt that, I almost felt like the essence of Gordon Parks surrounding me, because I was like, this is an important, like a very, very important time period in my city's history. And just to be around, with the police and, them, being on the mounted horses, I felt like I was in some kind of civil rights movement, in a sense. But if you do see down to the bottom left, you're going to see a gentleman there with, a shopping cart, with bottles of water. And, this was from an actual water distribution center. So around the summer of 2019, there were different spots in Newark where people were getting handed bottled water to, whether they needed it to bathe, whether they needed it to drink or cook with. And I couldn't find that actual image. I may have to rescan it, but I actually had the chance to, speak with the gentleman and really just connect with him. And I feel like this is where, I find myself venturing into photojournalism by, actually, capturing him and speaking to him and, listening to his story and really, bringing both the story and the photograph together. Mm-hmm. And amplifying that to tell his story, because he told me that, it's weird from when you see it on the TV to being affected, that, I can't live my everyday life like I used to, because, we have lead in our water, and I can be affected in the long term for that.
Are you adding any of that to those stories eventually, like when you speak with people? You do that on Instagram. I saw that you do that on Instagram. Sometimes you add additional information, because I always love that. I feel like that makes some pictures come even more alive, because you're not always there to give that additional information.
And with, some of my older work, before this actual time period, it would just be small captions. Like I wouldn't include a story because I felt as though that I don't know how to tell a story, mm-hmm. And I felt that what I did, for one, I actually looked at other photographers, and mainly a person who's my mentor, Derek Fosbender. He is the best when it comes to storytelling and really just like capturing a particular moment. Not just like actual capturing it, with this camera, but just mm-hmm. really sitting down with somebody for like hours, and speaking to them and just bringing that back, full circle. And it was just like during this particular moment, I have to capture these stories. And I actually had the pleasure of assisting Jamel Shabazz. He's a very well-known and prominent photographer when it comes to documentation. Mm-hmm. And he actually came to Newark when he was working on his project documenting veterans. Mm-hmm. And from his time period, he documented the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. He told, and once again, I feel like with a lot of the older photographers, they're telling me their regrets so that way I can learn from them. And his biggest regret was not capturing their stories.
Yeah, that's interesting. See, that's why I'm thinking that could be interesting for you to add, maybe even record some things or follow somebody longer, right. Or something
and that's where, like, this is where this is all happening now, where I'm getting into photojournalism, where I am sitting down with people, I am recording them, and I'm just having just a genuine conversation with them, and
right.
Like I said, and none of this is to exploit them, but to tell their truth and also to tell my truth as well.
Absolutely. If anybody has questions, I really want to encourage you to just ask, just unmute yourself. I know that there are a few people from New Jersey. If you have anything to add, that would be interesting as well. Those of you who know Newark, for example, if you have any thoughts on what you're seeing. But Chrystofer, please continue.
All right. And so this is where, us talking about, telling the stories and documenting, this is where, like I said, we're going on to the next slide. Is pretty much telling stories through documentation, using photographs to amplify stories in the community and city. And it was just after that moment that, I felt that it was important for me to really capture the stories of the people who were here and just to try to amplify them, like I said, connecting the photography, and the stories together. I haven't yet released the one that's on the left, but these were, school kids who had they were just hanging out after school, but they were actually outside playing football. And now in the age of social media and electronics, you don't normally see a lot of children just going out and playing, just for their own enjoyment. And, I really wanted to just photograph that because, we oftentimes see that, the youth, they're not active. They're just in the house, playing on their phones, playing video games. But just to see them just outside and being active, and they're all showing some sense of camaraderie and brotherhood. I really wanted to highlight that. Because even like they were so quick to share the story, share the actual photograph. It's like, yeah, these are my brothers. Like I love them, And I felt like that was important because even though like, this is just for now, I feel like, maybe years later on, they'll appreciate that and they'll be able to print that. And, if they're still hanging out together, they can look back on this image and say, hey, remember this time that, we were just playing in the park?
Yeah, exactly.
and also seeing that the Newark arts community is I want to say it's a very good size of people. And what I tend to do is that whenever there's like a big project or an artist is working, you know, on their project, I want to document them, during that time, and capture their stories about their process of doing that. And then to the right, I have a very good friend of mine. His name is Gabe Ribeiro. He is a graphic designer and he makes clothing, and so he had the chance to collaborate with the Newark art scene and put up a mural that says Newark is for artists.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that is a bold statement, because Newark it is and has always been an art city, and just to for him to put that up to pretty much embrace that, and to just to amplify that and just bring the community together to say like, hey, Newark is for artists.
Mm-hmm.
I want to capture that and highlight that.
That resonated with people.
Yeah, it really resonates with people, and like I said, it'll give them a sense of pride of, like I said, of themselves as being artists and being from the city.
Mm.
All right, and then this one, I want to say recently, it definitely hit home for me. I definitely had a few tears come out, because this gentleman here, his name is Talib, and he's a street merchant. And with the street merchants in Newark, they've been around way before I was even born. But instead of going out to different department stores and larger corporations, that some people they may not have cars to venture out to like a Walmart or a ShopRite or anything else like that. But the street merchants will always be there to provide you. Let's say if you needed a belt, you can go to them. If you needed socks, underwear, oils, honey,
Mm-hmm.
hats, you name it, they would always have it. And I just felt that I always patron the street merchants, but I always frequently pass them. I never sit down and have an actual conversation with them, like a genuine one, to really get to know them. And this was early this year, or maybe a bit later of 2019. But I just had the chance to say, hey, is it okay if I can document you during this time, because I want to show the entrepreneurship that's here in the city. And he was very open to it. He was very open to it, and he wanted to actually amplify that to show the younger generation that, hey, you can actually work for yourself, that you can own your own business, no matter how big or small it is. And he's walking around, he's showing me all these different things. He's like, hey, capture this, like a Muslim merchant, and you can definitely see, like, on the right hand side, it has all of this information about what he sells, who he is, and another statement that says stop killing the merchants.
Mm-hmm.
Because due to gentrification and the height of online shopping, a lot of the street merchants that have been in downtown Newark for 10, 20, 30 years, they're starting to disappear now, because they can't consistently find the income from all the patrons who may go up and down the street. But yeah, he wanted to highlight that, and I was like, what, I definitely want to do that, and especially on the left, where there's been a lot of gun violence in Newark. He wants to highlight to the younger generation that we need to stop killing each other. We need to embrace each other and come together.
Mm.
And it wasn't until this month where I actually heard that he passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt like, what, like I'm happy that I've captured him in this moment, that that he's no longer here, that you're not going to see that particular merchant, you're not going to see a stand anymore, and I just feel like, I just knew that importance of documenting everyday life, because you don't know who's going to be here and who's going to be gone,
Right,
or
exactly.
if your favorite establishment is going to be there, in the long run, or maybe they're not.
Mm.
And like I said, this one really hit home for me. And then this continues. I want to highlight some of the artists that were here in Newark. This is Lenny. He's a painter, and he's a muralist, and he actually had the opportunity to paint one of the largest murals here on the East Coast and in Newark. It's just like very high. I think it's in Newark, or it could possibly be on the East Coast. I'm not totally sure, but the scale of the actual the mural was like very, very high, and I just feel that this is a historic moment in the city, because like I said, we have this large mural of three Black women. It's a collective of women poets, and I just felt that just seeing him just in action and seeing his particular process, that had to be rightfully so documented, because this mural is going to be up for years.
Right.
And so
did you say who commissioned it, or I don't know if you
I know
said
the city of Newark commissioned it, and
uh-huh.
it was a collaboration between him and then a collective, the Womb of Violet.
Okay.
And yeah, I just felt that it was powerful, and he loves, and we're just to give you guys a heads up that we are working on a secret project together. I can't tell too much of the details, but he loves working with poets and photographers a lot.
Interesting.
But, can't speak too much on it.
Well, keep us posted.
I'll definitely keep you posted. But we're working on a secret project. You guys are the first to know. But yeah, just capturing just the Newark artist and his process of creating this mural is important, because oftentimes we always see the work, but we never see how it's being done or the actual process of it. And I feel like that is important. I
think this combination is wonderful, to see the environmental portrait of him, standing there really proud in his whole outfit and gear. Mm-hmm. And then we also see the mural. I think that's wonderful. And I guess he's up there too. Mm-hmm. We should probably open it up to questions soon. You also photographed protests recently. Is that what's coming up? Are you showing us some protest pictures as well, or talking about?
Yeah, I can definitely show you guys some protest pictures. Now they're not.
I mean, I don't know if we need to. I think it's more. I would just more like to hear about it, actually. Your experience of photographing the protests recently, because you've been doing that quite a lot lately, right?
So up until this point, I've been to about 15 or 16 demonstrations so far. And I mean, of course, everybody, it's been pretty much the hottest topic, of now this month. And actually, it goes back to what I was saying about like the media. Like they tend to show one particular side of that, that there's a lot of violence that happens during these demonstrations. That there's looting, that there's fires, explosions, and when I visit, these demonstrations, that's not what I see. I see a lot of love. I see unity. I see, family, and just people uplifting each other. And those are some of the things that I want to highlight. Definitely, I've experienced where a demonstration can go sour. Definitely, in when I went out to the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, where they were having a demonstration, and some people, who are not necessarily there for the cause may agitate, violence. So a lot of times people were just throwing things at officers. And that's not what it's about. But I definitely, somebody threw fireworks like around the police, and I was like kind of behind documenting, and lo and behold, it's 3 feet in front of me and off it goes, hitting me in my arm.
Wow, that's scary.
Yeah, and then and often I try running away from it, but this is a particular firework that when it explodes, it shoots at other ones, and it's consistently exploding. But almost been maced. Definitely got pushed back by a baton, but this is a historic moment where you see the people's uprising, of this year, especially, and this is happening during a pandemic.
Yeah, which is so crazy. I mean, that is just such a scary.
Everything that's encompassing.
Yeah, social distancing was just gone. Kathy, you wanted to say something.
Oh, yeah, I started shooting in Newark about 10 years ago. Different things I was following, and I really love to see what you're doing here. I was particularly interested over the number of years of the transition from the old architecture and the new housing that's gone up in Newark, and also Mount Pleasant Cemetery, which is, historically it was where people would gather and stroll. Like in other cities, it was park-like. And it's, well, at least the last time I was there, it was not in great shape, but it's an interesting place to me. Also, it was a number of years ago, there's a woman photographer, Helen Stumer. I don't know if you know her, about her, Chrystofer, but she embedded herself in Newark, I think starting in 1980, and she did a long-term project in Newark. I'm not sure if she lived on Bloomfield Avenue or if she lived in Bloomfield. So I know you know that, you know, all those, what I'm talking about. But you should check out her Newark project, black and white, and really wonderful work. From a historical point of view, as you were saying now, you want to document what's happening now. And she did that in the 1980s, maybe even into the early 90s. So she has a website, and you can see her work there, Helen Stumer, S-T-U-M-M-E-R. I put it in the chat a while ago, but you know, from a historical perspective, I thought maybe you'd be interested in seeing.
Well, definitely. I feel like, you know, seeing that, you know, we have this transition now where it's John, and now, you know, you're bringing up Helen. It's almost like, you know what, I'm like, we're pretty much carrying on tradition.
Yeah.
The documentation absolutely. Of Newark, and I'm consistently looking for different photographers of, you know, different time periods to try and, you know, see their works.
That's exciting, Kathy. I'm glad that you know of somebody who.
Oh, she was. I mean,
doing that.
I'm not even sure if she's alive now, but she was a real powerhouse. And when she started the project, she wasn't such a young gal. I have to say that. But she was determined and was really became part of the community. I heard her speak. I ran into her a few times at different programs. So I thought of her, Chrystofer, and I really think you'd appreciate her work. So
and I appreciate you for, you know, for bringing her up. I thank you so much. Like I said, this is
welcome.
My continuous research of just different Newark photographers and seeing how, you know, different time periods were documented. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
Kathy, I don't think it made it.
Yeah, it didn't make it in there. It's not there.
Try and plug that in again. That would be good.
Okay, I can do that.
Yes,
I'll
please.
do that. Sure.
Anybody else? Stefan?
Yeah. Hi, Chrystofer. Stefan here from Germany.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Can't tell you how happy it makes me to look at your pictures right now, especially at this moment in time, and especially here in Germany, because we only see people of color when they are killed in the media. And it is so good to see people actually in the communities telling the stories from inside the communities, because I think it's a huge problem even in photo land, to not report from the outside. So James Nachtwey going to Africa and telling stories about Africa, but actually people from the inside, from inside the communities, and telling the stories from a point of view where they actually are inside. And I find it so underrepresented in media, because even in Germany, it is always we have a huge community of Turkish migrants that came here 3 or 4 generations ago, and they just live here. And if you look at the German media, there's nobody telling these stories from inside, and I find it so hard to get to know these stories. And this is what leads, even in Germany, it leads to people not knowing what are the communities doing.
And people not getting integrated also in the right way.
Thank you so much for that. And yeah. You know what, I feel like I'm consistently having this David and Goliath kind of, you know, battle, you know, when it comes to, you know, telling the stories of my city. And so I felt that, you know, Instagram is like the best outlet for me, because, you know, I'm able to integrate, you know, different hashtags to have it. It's almost like the hashtags are a passport, you know, to the world for everybody to see. And, you know, anytime, you know, I get a share or any kind of, you know, comment, you know, I'm always grateful, and I'm thankful that, you know, they're willing to, take a look at my work and to hear, the stories of, people who are, like I said, underrepresented or who may have been silenced, by the media. So like I said, I really appreciate that. That means the most to me.
Do you have any, do you see any chance to get into different media? Because it's, okay, on Instagram, you can publish yourself, but for every other media, you have gatekeepers.
Right.
And do you see any chance to get into that?
No, absolutely. I felt that now, seeing that, we're having these demonstrations, that a lot of people, I've been contacted by many like big media corporations, for me to go out and tell like real stories. So I felt that, it's unfortunate, that that I was given this opportunity, due to the circumstances of why people are demonstrating, that a Black man was killed by a police officer. But the fact that, I'm able to, have these opportunities to, use my voice through my camera and tell a story, and that the media, the big media corporations are not picking that up, and they want to, help me amplify that. Like, I feel like that there's a big change in that, I'm continuing to fight Goliath, and I'm continuing to break that glass ceiling.
Do you think that there's anything you can do in terms of education? Because I'm always wondering, okay, the only Black photographer that made it out of America is basically Gordon Parks, who made it into his upper ranks of American photographers. But how can we do something about the education there? How can we get more people of color into education? I'm always asking this here in Germany. How can we get more people with a migrant background getting into photography? If I look into educational courses, everybody basically is Black and rich.
Right. Well, I think
is white and rich. Sorry.
But I think that it may be just the photographer's intention and what they try to do to use the talent for good. Because I know that Gordon Parks said that like photography was his weapon, like his camera was his weapon to combat the way society looked at Black people. And I feel like I'm doing that as well. And I do want to get into higher education. I do want to become a professor and speak about documentation and documentation and just photojournalism. But I just feel like we just there have to be some Black photographers who want to do that, because definitely during these times that there's a lot of people who do photography just for fashion or editorial and not really in that particular realm. But now that that this is happening, a lot of people are starting to gravitate towards documentation and photojournalism. And for me personally, I hope that they're not doing it as a particular trend. Now that Black Lives Matter is a hashtag, and that they're just in it just to gain some kind of notoriety. But the only thing that I can do is to show them differently. So I would have to try to control that narrative and say, hey, I understand that this is a major event that's happening in America, but when it's all said and done, you have to continue to document history and to document the voices of people who are not being heard. And so that's why I try to encourage other photographers to do.
Yeah, I think that's very important, to spread the word and encourage people that they can also do this. I think a lot of people think nobody will be interested or will see it, but I don't think that's really true. Barbara, you had a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Chrystofer if he's checked out the New Jersey Historical Society, because they have documented also other photographers who have documented Newark.
Right. So I've tried to visit a few times, but there was no way for me to actually get inside, or like I had no other kind of way to try to get inside and really try to see what they actually have as far as.
Do you have a connection there, Barbara?
No, but I'm surprised. Well, maybe now nothing's open. I don't know when you tried.
Right. I know that the New Jersey Historical Society is down in Newark, and like I said, it just didn't seem like there was a way just to get inside. And now that that you brought it up, I'm going to continue to try and.
Maybe you have to call and try to make an appointment. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's by appointment.
Yeah, probably, but definitely, I feel like
Because I
after
know that
this,
there have been other photographers who have documented Newark in the past.
yeah.
That you might want to check out.
I know that there's a New York Times photographer. You know, when the New York Rebellion happened, you know, he was on assignment, you know, to document what was going on, or just to photograph for I think he was photographing. He was photographing for the New York Times, but I think for me, I would like to see a perspective from like an actual like citizen or like a resident of Newark and how they were actually living in their homes.
Right,
Because,
not a press photographer.
yeah,
Mhm.
you're not necessarily press photography. Yeah.
I'm your neighbor. I live in Englewood.
Hey.
Yeah, she does great work. So you should check that out sometime. She's
No,
documenting Englewood. That's what she's working on.
I love to see it.
I'd like to, I'm inspired by you, Christopher, because you really have some beautiful photos of people, which I'm sort of afraid to approach, but.
Thank you.
Well, we have a few more minutes. Can you talk a little more about, I mean, maybe you did that already. You said how you approach strangers. I was just wondering if there are any other tips you can give when you approach strangers. You showed us one example of this one guy. I was just wondering if there's anything else you could share. Well,
definitely, you know, you want to approach him with a smile, you know, and first and foremost, the biggest thing that you have to introduce yourself, because I mean, if the person doesn't know your name, then how can they trust you to take their photograph? So, you know, I ask kindly, you know, hey, you know, my name is Chrystofer. You know, is it okay if I can just document you? And oftentimes, you know, I just may say that, hey, like, you know, we're in this particular, like, if you're in a particular like event or space or anything like that, you just ask, like during the pandemic, even like, you know, people had their masks on, people were trying to stay away. You know, I would ask them, hey, is it okay if I can, you know, document you during this time period? I'm trying to capture, you know, Newark, you know, during the pandemic, and just to, you know, archive that for historical purposes. And people are more often to, you know, open up. Mm-hmm. But I often find that people love compliments. So if you compliment them, like on a shirt or a hat,
that's
or
a good
shoes,
trick.
It's a good thing if you want to like document somebody. And people love compliments. They eat it up, and they're more open to, you know, having photographs taken. But you know, you just have to be transparent. You know, people know when you're lying. So when I genuinely tell them that, you know, hey, you know, I want to document Newark for this particular time period because I don't like how the media portrays us, or that, hey, maybe like I went out to Hackensack, you know, just telling people that, hey, you know, that there's not enough coverage of your city, you know, and I want to, you know, capture you and your city and just amplify you to let you know, to let people know that, hey, this is what's happening.
Yeah. Anybody, any more questions?
No, I was going to say, when Harvey Stein, when he goes out to shoot, you know, and he's many projects, to you, Christopher, his first thing that he tells his students and himself, I've seen him do it, is to compliment somebody on what they're wearing, how they look, and right away you get them, you hook them. So
yeah, and you know, and I actually had the chance to see. So when Jamel Shabazz, we came out to Newark, he was trying to photograph the veterans. There weren't many people coming in. He was like, you know what, let's just go out and shoot. You know, we had that conversation. We had the conversation of, you know, talking to people and engaging with them. You know, like even if somebody, you know, there may be somebody who may be, you know, broke or homeless, something like that. You know, it's still like, you know, extend a hand, you know, offer them, you know, say, hey, like, I can get you something to eat, you know, and just really have that connection with them. And I feel that, you know, if you have that organic connection with, you know, the person, I wouldn't call them subjects, because like I said, they're people at the end of the day. And if you really have that genuine connection with them, like I said, they're more eager like to open up. You never know who's your best friend out there. You really have to connect with them.
Yeah, I think it's a lot about just doing it and doing it in a really open way.
Yeah. Like I said, the worst thing that somebody can say, the worst thing that somebody can do is say no.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
You know, more than sometimes, like I, you know, with the no's that I get, sometimes, you know, I combat that with kindness and saying like, hey, you know, it's fine. Like I said, I just wanted to just, you know, just highlight you. And then they have second thought, you know, and they're like, you know what, I think this person's great. Like, let me have my photo taken. Why not?
Yeah, and if
they're not trying to exploit me.
You keep coming back and back, you'll melt them.
Yep.
They see you often enough. They'll know you genuine.
Yeah, that's a good thing to think about as well, actually.
Yes.
Very true. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Chrystofer, this was great. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Like I said, it's an honor just to be here, and speak with you guys about my process. And just the fact that, that everybody here is donating to a great cause. I feel that it's the most fulfilling to where you can talk about, photography, and then knowing that somebody else is going to have, food on their table. Like that, that absolutely means the most to me. And I want to always find ways to, help the community, with what I'm doing, like while I'm doing it, so this is great. And like I said, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and at the same time, we learned a lot. I feel like you showed us so many different ways of documenting a community and what all the different elements could actually be, that it's not just buildings, or that it's not just strangers on the street, but that it's also street artists and people in stores and in schools. And
even at the wherever you are in your particular process, that you can grow. You just have to challenge yourself. You have to be out there. So the only way that we can get better is if we just keep trying and keep challenging ourselves. Yep, keep doing it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everybody for being here again. Wonderful. And I hope to see you in 2 weeks. And thanks for your support. We really appreciate it.